Hi guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode of Conqueror's Blade. So, recently I have unlocked the Men-at-Arms, which is one of the Heroic Era units down the Chivalric tree. You can actually go over and have a look at the unit tree, that'll make things a bit easier. These guys here. And I've been playing them with for a little bit of a while now. I've still got a long way to go to get them elited, but I just kind of wanted to give what I'm thinking about them so far. If anyone gets really upset in the comments, it's not a guide. This is just my experience and what I've sort of encountered with playing with them so far. I guess my primary observation is that they're expensive, very expensive, because unit kit costs come in at just about 4,000 a kit, which means that to recruit them initially, you're looking at over 100,000 bronze. Obviously, they can be cut down if you either craft the kits yourself or you buy them from one of the neutral cities for silver. A lot of people are mostly going to be using bronze, and then at the resupplying at 4 grand a kit, for me, it kind of precludes using them in sieges and field battles unless you really want to be tryharding, because that cost is just too extreme to make it worthwhile, in my opinion. I think is what they're really useful for is territory wars. You know, you can get them leveled up, get them to a decent amount, and then they are hugely useful in territory wars because they're a really strong unit. But for sieges and field battles, I think they're too expensive to be using as sort of a daily unit. And even though they're better than something like the Squires, which is their predecessor, I don't feel they're that much better. Although, you know, it goes obviously without saying I've still got a fair chunk to level these guys up. Obviously, I'm looking forward to getting to this final bit down here, which is going to be giving me the health recovery. But I'm also quite looking forward to, and I'm probably just going to do this next to before I go down the rest of this line, is getting the block status is maintained while attacking. I think that should hopefully go a little bit of a way to giving them a little bit of extra sort of survivability in combat, hopefully, which is going to make them a little bit stronger later on down the line. So they do get access to both cover commander and, well, you have to unlock it, but it's not that far down the line. The shield wall as well, which forms them into a nice little stance, which kind of protects them pretty well. And of course, I'm running them with the longsword, which kind of makes them work pretty well because when I use my Mercy of Heaven, my self-healing ability, it also provides an AoE heal to your units as well. You can actually get them healing pretty decently. And I think once this gets combined with the unit slowly recovers health down at the end of the line, which is like an active healing ability that the unit gets, then I think that's going to make them a lot more survivable because they're going to have that healing ability combined with the longsword. It's going to make them a pretty decent unit. So, I've got a bit of a collection of clips, so we're going to head over, take a look at some of the clips, and kind of highlight on a few of the things that I've found with them so far, some of the good things, and some of the sort of less good things that I've found while I've been using them. So, I shall see you all in the battle. So, for the first one, we are onto a field battle. I was just, we were actually losing this battle quite badly at the start, and as I was pushing on to the A point to make sure that was secure, kind of saw these archers. I kind of screwed up my Clash Shields charge. They really wasn't really worth it, but we got a handful of them. And I start to regather up my units, see that there's these guys coming down, so just set my units off charging. I then get caught up by these poleaxe, who I managed to do a pretty horrible job and just get fully caught into the CC. Couldn't roll out for ages. Kept going down. I really thought I was done for here, to be honest, but managed to call back just enough, and my unit came back. And then I managed to get the unit to push kind of round and envelop him. And you see how much damage they got on him super fast there. And then our ally managed to come in, gets that little bit of the stun. And that enables us to get in and get the kill. But our unit managed to wipe out pretty much all those other guys coming in when you saw when I set them off on the shield charge. And we only lost one man. So in those sort of situations where they don't get overwhelmed or don't get annihilated by an enemy hero, I find they seem to do pretty well at munching through enemy units. It's just that if an enemy longsword uses a clash of shields against them, it just tends to do so much damage over such a great number of the units that it tends to not be worth it. So I was coming back, I looked across at sea, and it didn't seem worthwhile me trying to go down there. So I was just intercepting some of these cavalry, because they weren't in charge mode, they were just following along. And, you know, our guys don't do too much trouble cutting them at all. Take a bit of damage from the enemy ranged, and then I'm just trying to deal with stuff. I've got them in cover commander mode, so it means they kind of envelop the enemy heroes pretty effectively, I find. So I've been quite enjoying that. So I'm just trying to push these guys, trying to push on to the B point, because they've got so much range stuff on the C point. I didn't think I could reasonably get there, and it would do a lot. As you see, we really start to go to work to these spearmen. They just get munched. You can see the damage numbers coming off them so fast, and you can see we're not really taking much damage, bar from the ranged. our men-at-arms there just absolutely munch through enemy units like that in that sort of situation where we don't have to deal with enemy heroes, enemy units like that. These guys rock. That's really where I find they tend to excel. It's just when they get overwhelmed, they then die pretty fast still. Because, if you start getting hit from behind, they still only have like 8,000 health, something like that, so they're not that useful. So I saw there's a few enemies here blocking up, so I just go in and I'm nothing particularly skilled about that. I just getting a bit of extra damage and managed to get the kill. Then I come back, I see we've got this shield wall in. So I know I've still got them in cover commander, so I run off to the right. And because they're in cover commander, they're quite disciplined and they don't engage. And then so I drag them around the back of that shield wall and go in. And yeah, then that ends the shield wall. But then we start to get quite a few people turning up now. You see we're starting to take some casualties. We've got quite a lot of enemy heroes doing damage against us. And that's what starts to cause casualties. And even though there are only woodcutters over there, it's there providing the distraction, which is enabling the enemy heroes to get the damage in. Which is starting to diminish our numbers somewhat. Then we get some iron caps come in from the back, kind of clip me on the side of the unit. That takes out a few kills. I'm trying to use my abilities to push some of those guys back a little bit. And we are getting a good number of kills, and our unit is still doing a fantastic job, but it's just starting to get overwhelmed, and then the final unit comes in. I die, and that prefecture pike charge just finishes that unit off. But as I was saying earlier, one of the biggest problems I find is the enemy heroes, like being able to use AoE abilities. Like this longsword charge, he just goes straight through and flattens the entire unit and pretty much half health the bulk of the unit. It's very hard for us to deal with in that sort of situation. You see the prefecture swords charge up, and our shield wall holds up really well. It pretty much knocks them all down, deals a really good amount of damage. But then when you get 3 or 4 heroes coming up, all using ultimates, all using AoE abilities, the men-at-arms aren't that tough. They can't deal with that sort of impact. And you see the amount of casualties we take is pretty high, pretty quickly. I'm not sure if there's a lot I can do to reduce that other than try and avoid that situations. Maybe you can let me know in the comments if you think there is something I could do better to avoid those sort of situations. So it's back into a field battle for my final clip. I kind of felt that part of the thing I was trying to learn with these units was unit preservation in a way that I probably haven't for other units. I think I kind of have the tendency to... Nice teleporting man. I have the tendency to think that units are there to get me into a position so I can exploit my damage. Whereas I think in this case that's not the case. And when I make mistakes like that, like that situation just then, where I was so focused on me trying to get that hero that I forgot about the units. I let them get hit by a clash of charge and got hit multiple times. This time they tend to work out a little bit better. I was doing a pretty poor job against this short bow, but these guys don't take that much damage on the charging. And thankfully the enemy was a little bit slow in pulling their longbows out there, enabled me to kind of get into the unit and get some damage in. I think that that bow hero then kind of gave up with the unit. She ran away. I decided it wasn't worth me spending the time charging across the map trying to get her. I obviously activated Mercy of Heaven to try and get the health of my unit up a little bit and get them coming back. Tried to pull back towards point A because I thought it was worthwhile us trying to capture it. So if you kind of got the point earlier on where I was saying the, combined with the Clash of Shields ability, it's really hard to counter. So this is a unit of men-at-arms here. So I activate my unit on charge, and then I just run ahead and do my Clash of Shields right through the back, and then my unit hits, and boom. Pretty much the whole unit wiped out in like 2 or 3 seconds. So in those sort of situations, when you can... It doesn't happen to me very often, but when I can manage to summon my brain power and actually think a little bit properly and a bit tactically and get the men-at-arms unit to work with my own hero abilities, then they become a truly effective unit, in my opinion. That's when they're pretty deadly, because they have a strong charge, they're pretty resilient, and they have decent hand-to-hand damage. And I think in those sort of situations they work really well. So then a further fight broke out down here. I sort of got stuck in, but the one thing I noticed is the enemy archers were doing a ton of damage, and I wanted to get them. So I was able to get my men-at-arms to push through and plough in, and you can see it doesn't take them long to start going to work then. And then more friendly troops turn up, and we just managed to wipe out all those archers there. And that was pretty good for us, because killing those archers, those are the ones that are applying the most damage to us in that fight. So being able to push through with a shield charge is pretty handy in that sort of situation. And we end up capturing all 3 of the points, which is good for us. It means kind of this field battle is really going in our favour now. I was kind of, it looked like a lot of people were pulling back towards B's to try and defend, so I kind of wanted to stand around here, using my Mercy of Heaven to try and get a little bit of healing going on. Saw we've got these pikes coming in, and then we've got an enemy hero coming around the back. I think I really focus much more on enemy heroes now, but then I noticed that our men-at-arms were kind of getting a bit caught up in these pike militia because they were doing quite a bit of knockback. So again, able to use my class of shields to open up the opportunity. And even though it doesn't get the kills all the time, that class of shields, it knocks them down, it knocks down the brace, and it enables our men-at-arms to actually kind of get into the fight properly and do a lot of damage. And again, they only lost 1 or 2 units in that, and we managed to wipe out a whole unit of pike militia. So in this sort of situation is when they work well. It's just when they get overwhelmed by enemy heroes specifically, I find that they tend to go down pretty quickly. So I find that most of my thoughts tend to be around CC control. But anyway, that's all I've got for you on today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And subscribe to the channel for lots more Conquerors Blade content. Thanks for watching, guys, and I shall see you all on the next video.